Hello YouTube, this is Hunter Surge here again with some commentated gameplay. As always, this was recorded at 3D Shoppe at our Thursday weeklies. If you're in the Durham region, feel free to come down for our Thursday Elestrals weeklies at 7 p.m. We host best of 3, of course. Have a good time. So today is going to be me versus the new deck on the block, Drakking. I am going to be on the left playing KryoRhino. This is the same list that I ended up taking to the Premier Webcam Tournament. If you're not familiar, the goal of this deck is we have two big guys, Rhinosect and Kryovyrn, and our goal is to stick those guys, pressure our opponent with them, just win board control with that, and go for a big win con with Cryo Scorch's Burn 5. On the right, we have Bennett on Drakking, new deck on the block. A deck that uses a bunch of the solid tools that Water and Lunar has, and like Spectaris and Totagua and Galaxy and all that good stuff, and aims to ascend into Drakking a Lunar Water 2 cost from the Lunar Shattered Stars, either via the Special Ascension effect of Drakid that activates when you activate Rock and Hard Place, or by just hard ascending into it. And Drakking is a card that will just take over the game if it's left uncontested, because it is a 7/4 that will steal any Elestral that it destroys in battle and cannot be attacked as long as one of the stolen Elestrals is on your field. So if you do not deal with Drakking basically immediately, it will take over the game and it'll be basically impossible to win it back. With that said, let's get into the gameplay. Alright, opening hands being drawn. I won the die roll. I choose first. Drakking is a deck that kind of likes going second, but generally I feel for a KryoRhino, you're completely fine going first because you do really like getting the opportunity to use your Narpoons and your Ass Rabbits turn 1 uninterrupted. Because like if you can use a Narpoon to just like set up a Rhinosect line, then you don't really care if they manage to go into Drakking right away. But Bennett is going to mulligan. So in this game, you can mulligan an unlimited number of times. However, each time you mulligan, you have to expend 2 from your Spirit deck. So you have to take out 10% of your life. Very powerful mulligan. Some decks can really make special use of this by using it to set themselves up. KryoRhino is a deck that's able to do that. On my first turn, I don't have one of my good turn 1 plays, so I just go for an expend to draw, set 2. This means you get the advantage of going first, while also not giving them the ability to use Rock and Hard Place because you don't have an Elestral and a Rune. He is going to cast out Mutation, a 1/6 that is able to turn to a 6/1 by paying 1 water during his turn or when I normal cast a guy. So he's going to swing in for 1. I am going to play out an Harpoon to do some setup. I believe I drew that off that expend to draw or my draw for turn, one of the two. And he is going to use Mustation's effect in response to the normal cast, so it's a 6/1 and I can't beat over it. But we're going to set to get ourselves set up. If I recall correctly, I just have the Rhinosect in hand already, so I just need the Rhinymph to get me to having the full line. He is going to play out another Mustation. So he's going to be able to beat over, but I'm going to PTA here. And what this is going to force is this Mutation is going to become a 0/6, and a 0 attack cannot deal damage to your Spirit deck. So by using the Poison Tipped Arrow here to reduce his defense to 0, I force him to expend an extra water if he wants to actually hit in with this Mutation. Which means I'm not actually like losing life in relative terms. We are going complete parity. I'm going to pay out the Poison Tipped Arrows to destroy that Mutation at end of turn, paying out a water because I know I have the Rhinosect line, so I am cool. This line is ultimately a bit risky because he does have multiple back rows here, but I have a back row here, so I feel like I was pretty confident in this position that okay, even if he stops this Rhinymph, I have the capacity to protect the Rhinymph on the following turn, and things will be fine. He does Poison Tipped Arrows my Rhinosect, but Rhinosect exchanges pretty well into Poison Tipped Arrows because I'm going to clear his guy, then I'm going to swing in for 2, and then he is going to have to pay 2 to use Poison Tipped Arrows effect at the end of the turn to destroy my Rhinosect. So Rhinosect extracts 5 from his Spirit deck in that play line, while also clearing his board. Really, really great. He is going to put down the Smoltuga and get a Nekruff out of his deck. Just lets him search out a 5. Very, very nice. This is a 2-5, so I'm not terribly worried about it. I'm expending this after, because at this point, I already have like what I need for any cryo plays I'm doing in the future, so I don't need to be expending my frosts anymore, and would rather keep them in reserve. Since this is only a 2 attack, I don't think my options for guys to play are very strong, so I go for Frostmite. I also might just be keeping something in reserve for something bigger, so I just go for the Frostmite. The Frostmite is going to mean that any like 5 defender he puts down, like a Jatagua or whatever, is going to be immediately threatened. So he has to go offensive. He has to go offensive with the Necrof. But I have 2 face downs, one of which is a Tsunami. Still getting an opportunity to use Tsunami, even against a water deck like this. So we're going to switch that Necrof to defense and be all good. We will go into Eddy now. The Eddy is not going to be using its effect. We're just playing it as a guy, but that's fine. It's going to get poison-tipped arrows, so it goes down to 2, but that's still going to be enough to beat over the Necrof. So we will do that with Eddy, and then get in with Frostmite for 1 damage. Bennett is going to go for the Jatagua here, healing up 2, but as I said before, the Frostmite is able to reduce the defense of any of these defenders by 5 once per turn, so it is immediately threatened. I'm going to Ambrosia here. I've used quite a number of waters so far, so I'm trying to get back some of my waters and also keep the number of frosts in my grave enough for any of my cryo plays. I've spent like, I think at least 3 waters. No, I think I had actually gone through all of my waters here, because I spent 1 on Narpoon, 1 on Eddy, 1 on Tsunami, and I expended 1 for poison tipped arrows. But I'm just gonna normal send the Frostmite into Kryovyrn. I have 2 back row here. He's down to 6 spirits. So if he cannot clear this Kryovyrn right now, I'm going to be able to go into Cryoscorch next turn, and he does not. His expended draw does not get him into the out he needed. Cryoscorch is a card that you can special ascend into during your draw phase if you discard your whole hand with Kryovyrn's effect, and it will destroy all runes on the field and can expend your entire spirit deck to burn your opponent for 5. So it can threaten like 8-9 damage really easily and just like end games without giving your opponent an opportunity to mount a comeback if you have gotten yourself into an advantageous position. Very, very strong top end for the deck, and I do this very frequently against Drakings, because like if I'm able to stop the Draking from coming down or deal with it instantly, outside of the deck, the deck is pretty passive and isn't terribly well equipped to deal with my big bodies, so it's not too difficult for me to get a Kryovyrn on the board and then stick it and go into a Cryoscorch to kill them and not give them the opportunity to find the tools they need to get back to a Drakking, which is something you really, really don't want to see. This was during last week's locals, and during this week, I fought a lot of Drakking. At Claw Me Baby's Toronto locals, I fought 2 Earth Nexus and 2 Drakings, and here at 3D Shoppe, all 3 of my rounds were against Drakings, and my record against the deck is really, really good. I have a 7-2 record against this deck with KryoRhino. I'm actually kind of upset I didn't run into a single one in the webcam tournament, because I felt very prepared for it. Bennett is going to take first. This deck kind of likes going second, as I said, but like I demonstrated that like I'm completely comfortable going first into this matchup, so I guess he just decided to take it. He sets 3, expends to draw, pushes over to me. The set 3 is a bit scary, so I'm going to go for a good old Ash Rabbit. Ash Rabbit, when it receives a Thunder Spirit, which it does on normal cast, is able to look at the top 3 cards of your deck and add any of them to your hand. So it is a very, very good generic card that is in almost every deck. In addition to that is a 5 Defender, which is about as high as the attack stats on 1 cost go. So it is actually very annoying to get over. And a big part of why Eddy is a super common play in a lot of decks, which we're seeing right here, is because it's able to switch it to attack position and is just able to instantly threaten an Ash Rabbit. I'm going to PTA the Eddy here to force a crash if he goes into the Ash Rabbit. But this was the completely wrong play to make in this matchup. Eddy has a second effect that allows it to special ascend into a Kerberos if you cast Rock in a hard place. And being a Drakking deck, he's of course going to be on Rock and a Hard Place. So it was completely the wrong play here. I give him the Gorgon's Gaze. I'm really not sure what I was thinking with that one. I don't know why I gave him the Gorgon's Gaze instead of giving him the Astrabbit and just Gorgon's Gazing the Eddy after the Rock and a Hard Place resolves. That would have been the better play, I think. But I have the Rhinosect play in hand. I believe I already had it. Now, like, that was probably part of why I did it that way. But, like, with 3 face downs, this was very risky. Especially because, like, the Rhinymph staying alive is not something that I have as any certainty because a 9 attack Krybus was on the board. Maybe I also had a Cryoblast in hand. I might have also had a Cryoblast in hand and go, okay, if he stops this play line, I can Cryoblast a Krybus and I'll be fine. Cryoblast is a 1-cost Frost Invoke rune that reduces the defense of an Elestral by 2 and then destroys it if it hits 0. So it is able to just clear Krybus because it has a 9/2 stat line. But Rhinosect is going to get Tsunami'd. He's not going to be able to do anything on his turn. I'm going to go into a Narpoon on mine, and I will be attempting to search. At this stage, because I've done a Rhinosect play, my Frost Spears are basically all set up. If the Rhinosect gets cleared, I will have the 5 I need. Yeah, I paid 1 for Poison-Tipped Arrows earlier, and then paid 2 for Rhinymph, and then 2 more on Rhinosect. So I will have the requisite number of Frost Bears to go into a Kryovyrn if this Rhinosect gets cleared, and I need to be putting up something else. So that's very, very nice for me to be. That's a very good position for this deck to be in. It's like the exact scenario you want. Like the ideal game plan for this deck is early game. We do Rhinosect to establish control of the board, and then after that we start going into Cryo stuff. He is going to put down a Galaxy. Very glad I did not misenchant Rhinosect here. Rhinosect would get swapped to a 5/8 by Galaxy's very annoying effect. So here we are going to be doing the cool Ambrosia play that I actually mentioned in the deck profile. We have 4 Frost Spirits in our Underworld right now. So we are going to use Ambrosia, paying a Frost Spirit, healing up only 2. The Water Spirit that we used on Narpoon and the Thunder Spirit we used on Astrabbit. It is going to be a less effective Ambrosia. However, it's an Ambrosia that allows us to get Cryoling online. So we are now going to be able to normal cast a Cryoling. And since we have 5 Frosts in our Underworld, it is going to immediately attempt a Special Ascent into a Kryovyrn from my deck. He is going to cast Pandora's Box, which I assume he sided in. Pandora's Box is a very common sideboard tool where you pay to negate an effect that would search the deck and then force your opponent to mill 2. However, this does not interact terribly well with Cryoling, because Cryoling gets +1 attack for every Frost Spirit in your Underworld. So even if you Pandora's Box it, Pandora's Box does not destroy the thing that's negating. So the Cryoling is still going to be a 6/3. It's still going to just clear this Galaxy, no problem. And then it puts the other player in a spot where it's like, okay, you must clear this now 6 attack Cryoling on your next turn, or the moment I hit my main phase next turn, it is going to attempt a Special Ascent again. This also causes Cryoling to exchange very favorably into Gorgon's Gaze, though a bit less favorably than with Pandora's Box, because at least in that case, the Cryoling cannot attack. He is just going to take the 2 there. He's going to go into Eddy, which is going to be able to switch the Cryoling to defense where it only has a 3 stat and swing over it. However, I had the second Cryoling in hand. I believe I opened one of them and searched another with Narpoon, going like, okay, I know I have my setup for this. Let's just ensure we have access to double Kryovyrn, so if he clears 1, I can still continue to threaten the Cryoscorch. So we are going to ascend into a properly enchanted Kryovyrn again, go in for big damage, and he is not going to have any means by which he can clear this Kryovyrn, so he's going to scoop it up knowing that Cryoscorch is going to be coming down next turn and closing out the game no matter what. no matter what defensive runes he has there. Very, very strong. I love Cryo, man. It's so cool. I'm upset I didn't get to actually put it on the board, but Ben knows what's going on. We have played it enough times between Call Me Baby locals and 3D Shop locals that he knows exactly what's going on when Kryovyrn is on the board and he is just low on spirits. So yeah, as I said, this is the exact same list that I used for the Premier Tournament. I just did a deck profile on. Here it is up on the screen. You can also go check out that deck profile on my channel if you want some more in-depth explanations about anything in this deck. And with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll be seeing you guys later.